It's time for this week's edition of News or Snooze. Bennett has two quotes that he'll run by me. I'll say if they're newsworthy or snooze-worthy, and then I have one to throw at Bennett.
Okay. First
I'm
one
ready.
here,
Okay.
kind of an easy one for you.
Okay.
But this is from Kurt Signetti after the second scrimmage. We had a lot of question marks, I think, in our passing game. I'm pleased with Barnett's progress at QB. We've had
News.
some receivers step up.
News. That is definitely news. Signetti likes to drop hints at who the quarterback is. He did it all of last camp with Centeo, even though Centeo wasn't named until minutes before the kickoff of the opening game against Middle Tennessee. We all kind of knew, one, just based off of pure talent and kind of seeing the videos and everything that came out, but also throughout all of camp, Centeo was the name that kept coming out of Signetti's mouth. It wasn't Billy Atkins. It wasn't anyone else on that roster. It was Todd Centeo. And now this season, it hasn't been McLeod at all. It's been Barnett. This one time, he never mentioned McLeod. The only thing that we thought he did mention McLeod was that he values experience. If it comes down to like if they are both in a dead heat, he would lean the experience over it. What seems like they're not in a dead heat right now. And then Tyshawn Wyatt, unprompted, said Alonzo Barnett was doing great. You put all of that together. This is an extremely newsworthy quote, and I think it is his way of saying that Barnett is going to be the starting quarterback.
Yeah, I agree with that. I think that makes a ton of sense. Want me to hit you with the second one?
Yes.
Again from Signetti. Tonight, the defense was shorthanded. We had a couple corners out with soft tissue. They'll all be back Friday and Monday. They're not long-term injuries. But my question, is it newsworthy, snooze-worthy that some of the corners, including I think some of the top corners, have dealt with some soft tissue stuff?
I think it's kind of newsworthy. I mean, this is a coach that it seems like all camp has been talking about how they're working to limit injuries. They didn't tackle in the first scrimmage. Unclear if they tackled in the second scrimmage, but in the first scrimmage they weren't tackling, and I believe the quote Signetti used was to avoid soft tissue injuries. And like he's been very adamant about things like that, that they don't need to tackle because they're a little bit of an older group, so they can avoid these injuries. And now you're saying half of the secondary didn't play in the last scrimmage because of injuries? Seems like something kind of wacky is going on behind the scenes. Not wacky. That makes it sound like that makes it sound bad. But
Conspiracy theory.
like it's just weird that the secondary is having these issues.
Definitely tough at corner too, because that's a young spot where you'd think every practice rep would be
Yeah.
super beneficial. I think on the plus side, the no tackling kept him out of like a dude tearing his ACL. So like Chauncey Logan maybe having like a slightly sore hamstring.
Yeah.
That's a tough thing to say, folks.
Slightly
Is
sore.
is not as bad as like
A
Chauncey.
broken
Well,
knee and ankle.
obviously, like yeah, shattering his leg. So
Yeah.
I think from that perspective, it's good. He said they have no long term injuries, which is really solid. But yeah, it's definitely tough if like you really want to rep those guys. Also seems easier probably if you're a receiver to like quote unquote step up if you're going against like backup. We've had a lot of guys step up.
You're
And
going
on an
against me.
unrelated note, all of our corners are
Yeah.
injured.
Now, yeah, our quarterback too in the second scrimmage was Jack Fitzpatrick. His 6'2", 640 was a little bit worrisome, but man, did he not do well. But like, it's also, I think we talked about it a little bit earlier. This is the group that you wanted to not only get the reps, but like understand the chemistry. Because I feel like so much of the secondary is understanding when to pass guys off. It's when to kind of feel your zone. How does the person next to you play their zone? How do you then play your zone? If you're playing man and you have different responsibilities where you're passing a man off, like how does all of that work? And I think that was a bigger issue than necessarily talent last year, was that it was a completely new secondary, and they were hit by the injury bug last year. Austin missed an extended amount of time with injuries. Logan was kind of banged up to start the season, and that's why he wasn't the cornerback 1 or 2 last season. So it is worrisome that they are injured going into this year.
I think it's also interesting. Like I know Virginia's offense was terrible last year, but they do have some like promising talent at receiver.
Yeah.
Malachi Fields is like 6'4" and really good. They got I think Malik Washington's a Northwestern transfer who was super productive. So UVA's offense has like decent skill guys, so that'll be interesting. The offensive line for UVA is a major worry, but if they can like keep Tony Muskett upright, JMU's secondary is gonna need to be locked in against those receivers.
Yeah. You ready for my quote to you?
Yes.
Quote from Signetti after the second scrimmage. Quote, "We got areas we got to improve, starting with protection." News or snooze?
I'm snoozing this one. I think it was interesting, but it was also one that like I'm not buying that their offensive line is like a concern. Like he might want it to improve in terms of like, oh, we didn't pass protect the way we want to. I'd argue the newsworthy part possibly is that the defensive line did a nice job getting pressure. That seems like a very
Ooh,
positive
you're going
thing.
the inverse
I
of
just
what he
can't
said.
imagine. It's like, oh, the offensive line that like would help JMU lead the conference in scoring offense last year returns everyone on its two deep. We can't pass protect. It's like that. I'm sure you want better than what they did, but like I know they can pass protect and run block. So I don't think that's a real concern. But interested to see if the D line's actually playing at a high level because that'll be huge if they are.